and welcome to the Poetry Prism, the podcast where we explore the art of poetry. Did you know that if the plague hadn't swept London, Shakespeare may have never become a poet? That's right, that wasn't incidental. It was because between 1592 and 94, the plague was so bad that theatres had to stay closed. This meant that there was no demand for his plays, so he had to turn to poetry instead. I'm your host Jhankaar Purohit, and today we're kicking off with a look at why poetry exists and why its existence matters to us. Well, why does it? Listen on to find out. Poetry is about the expression of emotion. It's often written from the poet's own experiences. Sylvia Plath, for example, wrote about her mental illness, and a multitude of poets have written about their experiences with writer's block. Yes, we are aware of the irony of that statement. Consider The Tire Shop by Bob Orr, where he relates his experiences to those of a neighboring tire shop man. One day I'll tell him that I too have struggled to get words to align, to work out their balance, their weight, the true measure of their rhyme. He compares the aligning of a tire to his process of creating a finished or aligned poem from unfinished or unaligned words, a process that he is struggling with due to his writer's block. This poem allowed Bob Orr to express his difficulty with the inconsistent state of poetry writing in 2001. But poetry, allowing the cathartic expression of emotions, has not stopped since then. It's still relevant, if not essential, to discuss poetry today, due to its ability to let the poet express and let their audience relate, to allow us all to come together as we bond over shared feelings. It first began in around 2500 to 3000 BCE. The oldest known poetic text we know of is Hymn to the Death of Tammuz, speaking about the tragic end of an ancient god. This was a common thread amongst the early poetry, stories about gods and kings, often about heroic actions during wars, negative traits leading to tragic downfalls, etc. The nature of poetry, back then at least, meant that it included rhyme and rhythm, allowing for easier memorability. And that's it. Now you know how poetry began. Yes, it was never meant to be a complex riddle to be decoded, just a form that allowed for people to remember stories easily. And wow, what a long way poetry has come. It has evolved to no longer act as an aid for memorizing, but merely an expression of emotion. Let's look at Sylvia Plath's poem, The Mirror, where she speaks about society's judgment and focus on the outward appearance of a woman. The woman here looks into a lake, expecting it to show her who she truly is inside, but it only tells her what she looks like from the outside. Now I am a lake. A woman bends over me, searching my reaches for what she really is. Then she turns to those liars, the candles or the moon. I see her back and reflect it faithfully. She rewards me with tears and an agitation of hands. These powerful lines not only express Plath's frustration, but also comment on an injustice in our society, the viewing of women as nothing more than their outward appearance. Numerous poets like Plath have used their works to speak up about social issues. Maya Angelou, for instance, she used her poetry to speak about racial injustice surrounding her. Now, we've seen that poetry can work to bring people together even beyond their individual feelings. It can spark movements over shared experiences of oppression and discrimination. In essence, the impact of poetry goes beyond the page or screen. It has the power to shape narratives, mobilize communities, and plays a vital role in the expression of emotion. As we wrap up this episode of the Poetry Prism, it's clear that poetry goes beyond high school examinations. It's a symbol of everything that makes us human. Thank you for joining us on this poetic journey, and in your free time today, maybe try picking up a poem.